that there is a direct link between infrastructure, transportation improvement, and economic development. And so when you have a reduction in infrastructure, you have a reduction in economic development, and similarly so. The economic downturn that we've seen as a result of COVID-19 has suffered in our infrastructure goals and our needs of our citizens as well. And so we need to make sure we're addressing those infrastructure needs. We thank our friends in the state and also our federal partners. Greenville did receive from the infra grant a 71 freight corridor that we're getting ready to have. It was announced by our federal partners about 3 weeks ago. That's good. But your local citizens and residents are not looking at a freight corridor. They're looking at going from point A to point B. How can they go to the grocery store? How can they go to their church? How can they go to work? And so we have to put more monies in infrastructure to meet those basic individual needs of our residents and get into point A and point B so that they're value added in our cities and towns.
We're in Lucedale, Mississippi. I've been the mayor here for 3 years. Our population is roughly right at 3,000 right now. We were a little bit under 3,000 at the 2010 census. We fully expect to be a pretty good ways over, when the results come out at the end of the year, the first of next year. We were founded in 1901. If you want to know where Lucedale is, we kind of refer to ourselves as the gateway to the Gulf of Mexico, because once you go through Lucedale, your next stop is Alabama. So we're about 10, 12 miles from the Alabama state line. We're about 35 miles north of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We're really basically facing the same issue that every little town across the country is facing. If you go back to post-World War II, that's when most of our water systems and infrastructure was put in. And I tell people, I said, all of that had a lifespan of about 50 years. Well, now we're 70 years old on those things. So everybody has infrastructure needs. The biggest issue we have is probably old pipes in the ground that are still transporting our water to customers, and occasionally we have some discolored water just because of the age of the infrastructure, So we definitely have needs in that area, but I also understand that like I say, every little town across the country does too. So it's not going to be something that's easily fixed.
Our town is Carrollton. We were organized in 1834, and we have 190 folks according to the census. We were organized in 1834, and we are a sister town to North Carrollton, which is a separate town. In Carrollton, infrastructure is one thing that we are working very greatly to improve. The soil is very soft and erodes very easily, and so we have to do something about the drainage. We've started at the bottom of the hill, so to speak, and are working our way up, making improvements, but we still have over half of the town to go, and so we're working on street improvements, we're working on drainage improvements, and just trying to find the grants that we can to make that difference.
Infrastructure quality is essential for economic development, and I think I speak for a lot of folks, not just Gulfport, where we're seeing growth, where we're seeing opportunity. The infrastructure needs are always going to be a challenge, and people often think of roads, which are, there's safety considerations, there's development considerations. But also the infrastructure is your water and sewer lines, and most communities in America have very, very old water and sewer lines that have to be maintained, have to be replaced. So it is a constant challenge making the maximum use and prioritizing budgetary applications for infrastructure improvement and replacement. And look, there's always something breaking. So we may be planning for it, but over here a water main goes down or a water tank needs replacing. Some things we can plan for, but there are some contingencies that you can't, that you have to spend monies that you may not have a very good rainy day fund for, or had never encountered or anticipated at all. Locally, the best example I can use is water meter replacement, the meter heads that we've had, and that's a multi-million-dollar consideration for a city like Gulfport, and it has become a challenge, and it has impacted our bottom line. So there's so many moving parts to what our public works folks deal with, so there will always be a need. It's not just new expenditures, sometimes it's maintaining what you have.
I think that's one reason what we're asking for from Congress is so important, as far as a fourth assistance package that would include revenue replacement for cities, because what the reality is right now, if you've got a large city that's lost 20 to 30% of their sales tax revenue, and we've seen some of that in the bigger retail areas, then they're going to have to put infrastructure projects on hold, and because they've got to maintain public safety and all the other services that go with that. So unfortunately, in the time we're in right now, if we don't get some assistance with revenue replacement, and we don't know how much longer this pandemic's going to last, and hopefully it won't have continued impacts on economic development and retail, but it might. So infrastructure right now is something that they desperately need help with, but because of revenue losses related to COVID, they're going to have to suspend some of that, unfortunately. The legislature did pass a bill in 2018 that does appropriate some more funding, use tax, which is basically internet sales tax, to maintain what they already have. And they will be doing that, just maintaining. But new infrastructure improvement projects will probably be, unfortunately, put on hold unless Congress acts with a fourth package to assist local governments.